My name is Brett Friedman, and I'm the chair of the Division of Spine Surgery at the Mayo Clinic. My affiliation with the AOA dates back to the Emerging Leaders Program, and then on to the JOA and ABC Traveling Fellowships. I currently sit on the Leadership Fellowship Committee and a subcommittee of the Own the Bone Initiative. I met Bernie early in my tenure at Mayo. I started in 2015, fresh out of the military, with my last assignment being in Landstuhl, Germany. He was this energetic, bright, always happy, unassuming man. Most of all, he was clearly a selfless servant. Starting at Mayo after being in the military for 20 years and in Germany for the last 7, it was a little bit of a shock because there was a frequent occurrence of bumping into legends of my field, like Dan Barry, Mark Pagnano, Rob Truesdale, Dick Berger, John Sperling, and the list goes on. But the one starstruck moment I remember the best was in a lobby in a Shanghai hotel where a Mayo contingent was being hosted for the Chinese Orthopedic Association meeting. There at the table for two, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Bernie Morrey came and sat with me. He just said, "Call me Bernie." We chatted about nothing orthopedic, more just about life. And at that moment, it was, and forever since has been clear that he really cares about people. And most of all, he cared about his patients. Then and there, Newton's adage about standing on the shoulders of giants was embodied. I knew I was going to see farther and do more because I knew him. Bernie helped convince me to apply for and then obtain a position with the ABC Traveling Fellowship. He felt it was the crown jewel in orthopedic training. He provided a litany of historical pictures and stories that hooked me on the value of this crown jewel and made for great talks on the tour. That's a bit of my experience with Bernie. But the reason he's a pillar of the orthopedic community is that my story is one of thousands. That includes residents, fellows, surgeons who trained and work with him. He has held every leadership role in our profession. He's authored the key articles and chapters that define shoulder and elbow surgery. He's innovated implant solutions that drive great outcomes. And while Bernie may bleed Mayo blue, he breathes orthopedics. So it was such a great honor to be asked to participate as a champion for his Pillar campaign. Thank you to those who donated. And most of all, thank you, Bernie, for being a mentor and a true pillar of the orthopedic community.
My name is Mark Morrey, and I am an orthopedic surgeon specializing in shoulder and elbow at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I've been a member of AOA's Emerging Leader Program since I was a resident, in large part because of my dad's encouragement and involvement with the organization. As the AOA is a leadership organization, I can think of no greater example of a leader than my dad, Dr. Bernard Morrey. He has embodied the title servant leader and has been my hero my entire life. Growing up, I saw my dad's values play out by his actions. When someone needed help with a project, a deck, a kitchen, finishing off an attic room, he was there helping. There wasn't a task that he couldn't do with his hands, and I learned the value of hard work, planning, and how to use tools from my dad. The lessons I learned from him in the garage, rebuilding a car or doing a woodworking project, are lessons that I hope to pass on to my children and my surrogate children, my residents. It was the greatest orthopedic training that a kid could have just working in the shop with my dad. He's also incredibly generous. When someone needed a loan, he'd give it and give it freely, without thought of return, and oftentimes at great personal sacrifice. While he's generous with his resources, he's also generous with his time and his support. Always willing to lend an ear, or if asked, give sage advice. I can think of dozens of people who remember a Bernie Morrey anecdote, or that he reviewed their idea or research and what an impact it made on their lives or in their work. And these are traits and characteristics that we want in all of our leaders. He's taught me the value of looking ahead, having goals, creating a vision, and inspiring others to see that vision to motivate change. And he's always gone above and beyond to support people in their careers and has done so with humility and the utmost integrity. While his accolades are certainly impressive, I think the number of people who are impacted by my dad is the true testament of his career and the reason for his being named an orthopedic pillar. A pillar supports, and the multitudes of fellows and residents that he's trained and impacted around the globe are now leaders in their own right. And that is the evidence of his work and the fruits of his labor. Isaac Newton said, "If I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants." We've all seen a little further by standing on my dad's.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Sanchez Otelo, and I currently serve as Division Chair for Shoulder and Elbow Surgery at Mayo Clinic. Dr. Morrey is a perfect example of what is considered a pillar in orthopedic surgery. As a gifted surgeon, he advanced the field of elbow surgery from its infancy into what modern elbow surgery is today. His innovation has always been supported by high-quality research, and in regards to education, he has trained generations of residents and fellows, and in truth, reality, the vast majority of key opinion leaders for the elbow were trained by Dr. Morrey. Obviously, he was invited to lecture once and again all over the world. And as a leader, he served as chair of our department at Mayo Clinic for 11 years before being advanced to the Mayo Clinic board. And he was elected as president of multiple societies, including ASCS and AAOS, amongst others. But above all, he is the ultimate mentor, with an incredible ability to always listen and provide the best advice. And for me in particular, he is my family. We joke about the fact that I consider him my second dad, and it brings tears to my eyes when he calls me son. So I'm extremely grateful to AOA for this recognition and to many who donated funds to honor Bernie Morrey as AOA pillar of orthopedic surgery.
My name is Bernie Morrey. I'm an orthopedic surgeon from Mayo Clinic and now currently working at the University of Texas in San Antonio. I'm very appreciative to have chosen orthopedics as my profession. I actually started professionally as an aerospace engineer working on the Apollo project, specifically the Apollo 13 abort project. But was very fortunate to have an opportunity to go to medical school at the University of Texas in Galveston, and then my training at the Mayo Clinic, and ultimately was extremely honored to have been made president of the AOA around the year 2000. During that time, we were trying to distinguish the AOA from the academy, and the concept that was developed was an organization of leaders and leadership. And I think the pillar program reflects this direction, and I think the AOA has done a great job of trying to focus on this aspect of our career development. One of the most important events for me in my career was being named an ABC Fellow, one of the fellowships of the AOA, and I was so fortunate to be traveling with a group of individuals that are unique, I think, in their contributions to our specialty. This includes the Canadians, Dr. Cease Rohrbeck and Jim Waddell, and then my American colleagues, Jesse DeLee, Rick Matson, Vern Tolo, and Mike Steinman. And this really was very important in my career to have been associated with those individuals. The opportunities that I've had are largely focused in the academic opportunities at Mayo, and in this sense, we became interested in an unknown joint, so to speak, which was the elbow. And that kind of set me in my career academically, along with hip and knee surgery. But also importantly was the interactions and the opportunities that being a surgeon provided. Probably the most important in some ways was the privilege of being the personal physicians to the Bush's President and Mrs. Bush 41, senior president, Ms. Bush. But I think it's important to emphasize that the career is not reflected by just, you might say important people, but the opportunity to help individuals from all walks of life regain their function, which is what the orthopedics is all about. We retired from full-time practice at Mayo over 10 years ago, and we moved to my wife's hometown in LaGrange, Texas, where we have a small ranch of 120 acres. We call it Elbow Bend for obvious reasons. And as we are in this state of retirement, or semi-retirement, because I'm still working at the University of Texas in San Antonio. It's Dr. Rockwood's program. But I'm reflect on the great opportunities I've had in my career, and the fact that it's been transferred to my children. We have 4 children, and they're all in the medical profession too. Mark and Matt are orthopedic surgeons. And really in this context, I would like to thank them as being supporters and sponsors of this pillar of recognition, along with Dr. Sanchez Sotelo and Dr. Brett Friedman, who were also very instrumental, I understand, in soliciting support for the recognition. And so in closing, I would reflect on my career as being very blessed and very fortunate. I'm very appreciative of my family and all the sacrifices they made so that I could have the opportunity to try to develop my talents and to do it in the context of a wonderful organization like the AOA, and to having had the opportunity to be a traveling fellow with the colleagues who have become lifelong friends of mine. I do want to especially recognize Dr. Mac Everts for his sustained and intense support for the AOA as an organization, and for trying to make sure that the organization maintains its leadership perspective, not just now, but into the future. He's been a role model for me in my career. He's been a role model for me with my involvement with the AOA. So I would like to finally express my appreciation to the AOA for making this possible, as well as to the individuals who spent so much time making sure that it happened. Thank you.